What's up, guys? It's me, Lumos Theromax, and today I have got something that actually blew my mind reading, and I actually have a person from my YouTube comment section to thank for pointing me towards this content, because I wouldn't have read it without his help. And I actually have one of the OGs of the Theromax Corps, my boy Wally West, with me hanging out today. Wally, if you want to say something.
Yeah, what's good, everyone? Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hell yeah, he's always my boy. He's always reminding me to do that too, man. I'm the worst at popping that out. But we recently got monetized, so thank you guys. I couldn't appreciate that enough. But with no further ado, let's get into this content, because this is absolutely wild. One of the most powerful characters is recently showed up in a Crisis event tie-in called the Deadly Green. And I'm going to give you guys a quick recap to kind of flow you into exactly where things are going. And it's getting pretty wild, to say the least. But so basically, in this Deadly Green prelude to issue 5, we have a bunch of different heroes, including like Swamp Thing, Superman, the new one, Alan Scott, Obsidian, Jade, Raven, and a few others, all working together to try and figure out something that they can do to basically just deal with the Great Darkness. And one of the things they try to do is enter it via both Alan Scott Green Lantern's ring as well as the powers of Obsidian, because Obsidian is connected to the Great Darkness. And a few of these characters enter that domain, but specifically we're going to follow Constantine's side story within this context, because there's a lot of stuff going on with him. And he kind of gets dragged off by himself directly into the Great Darkness, where this weirdo version of Upside Down Man shows up and begins poking and prodding at Constantine, saying all sorts of different things to him. But Constantine doesn't really seemingly care. He kind of writes him off, which is a little bit odd. But considering the last time UDM showed up, he was capable of like absolutely demolishing Constantine. And then this version of UDM, even weirder, transforms into freaking Trigon. What? And Trigon continues like poking and prodding and saying a lot of these really weird, ambiguous statements. And it's just kind of odd, but it's all very particular. And then things get really wild when Trigon, who was larger than he was literally holding Constantine in his hand, basically disappears into nothing but a giant set of dark purplish eyes. And eventually that hand reaches out once more, and we find that Constantine is being held by some figure in the darkness. And that figure shrinks and eventually forms into a being with a pair of red wings that spread out. And the being turns and starts talking to Constantine and basically tells him, yo, there's a lot of things going on here, and I kind of appreciate you for your place inside the greater scheme of things. And he claims that he knows of Constantine's story and that he's deserving of the love and adulation that everyone gives him, essentially, or existence gives him. And that he sits in the black of all of eternity watching that flicker of light that either Constantine or potentially even creation itself exists, because light is always seen as like a state of life in general whenever it comes to DC. And meanwhile, during this, Superman fuses with Swamp Thing, which is its own whole thing, to hold off the ever-oppressive force that is simply just existing inside the Great Darkness. And they manage to work together to find some sort of weird machine inside the Great Darkness that they pull out, utilizing everything that they possibly have to offer. And it appears that this figure talking to Constantine has given them this crisis machine to help deal with the current crisis event that's wiling, because that's actually the very first machine that caused the first crisis, and it's one of Pariah's nonetheless, in hopes that it will help them essentially deal with Pariah. And so the real question at the end of this, and I have a whole server blowing up over this conversation, is essentially, who was the being talking to Constantine? And we're gonna open this up now. It's gonna become a lot more open now that I've done with the comic story and style recap for you guys. Like, there's 3 major figures that we've essentially argued this down to being. So why don't you go ahead, Wally? Give them who you think it is and why.
Alright, so first I think that it's Lucifer Morningstar, because, well, one, just scaling wise, it's the only one that logically makes sense. Um, like if you have well, one, it's an archangel being displayed very clearly. We know Michael's dead, and Constantine talks to him as if he's known him his whole life, and also we've seen Lucifer traverse the Great Darkness before, so it would make sense that he would be here now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's the first thing that I thought whenever I saw this, because interestingly enough, he even makes a David Bowie reference, right at the end of what he's saying. He says, yo, I love Bowie too. Which was really interesting, bro. It was really interesting. And I think that specific shout out will stand the test of time. And we'll get to a little bit more evidence whenever it comes to this theory down the way. But my boy Q, big shout outs to my boy Q. Go check out him and subscribe, just like you should like and subscribe to this video. He thinks that this is actually the first of the Fallen. And that would make sense. His really strong argument for that was, yo, he very clearly does not have the scar on his face that Lucifer normally has, which is true. And he believes that scaling wise, it would be a little bit whack, but it would make sense that it possibly could be. And for the third idea, whenever it comes to this, we're going to dig into the concept that this was the Great Darkness itself. Because we have a lot of weird shit going on where nobody really believes that Pariah is in control of the Great Darkness. Some people believe he's just corrupted some of its power. Specifically Swamp Thing, who does not believe the Great Darkness is behind any of this. And the Great Darkness was essentially fueling, or changing his form to give a bunch of people who've been darkness oriented or something along those lines throughout all of creation's history, because it's trying to reflect things that Constantine can comprehend as the greatest darknesses that he's traditionally fought. So I think honestly right now all three of those could not be too bad of plans, if I'm being 100% honest. Wally has some really strong arguments for it being Lucifer, and honestly, after doing just a little bit of research, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I actually did some really weird digging. Checked out a bunch of different interviews and stuff, and I found some really, really, really interesting content for y'all over here. There's an interview about issue 5, which, keep in mind, this story called Deadly Green came out as a prequel, essentially leading directly into part 5, where one of the writers for it is talking about part 5 and the tie-in that leads up to it here. And he specifically begins talking in this second instance here. Oh, hold up, where was it? Here we are. He basically says, one of the writers I talked about was this Ram V, because Ram was writing the Swamp Thing, and this is how far back this content goes, everything here with the Great Darkness. Ram and Dan Waters were working on Justice League Dark, and Dan had been working on Lucifer specifically. Says they had been working on a space around that where they would mention the Great Darkness in Justice League Dark, so if we were doing a one-shot, I knew who I was doing it. I know who was doing it. And he laughs, very heavily implying that since this guy was working on Lucifer, he needed him to do this, and this was his tie to the Great Darkness. So my current theory is I wouldn't be upset if it was any of these characters. I think the most sense does kind of work whenever it comes to Lucifer. And it appears that Williamson, one of the guys writing on this, does very heavily hint at this being Lucifer. So what about you? You got anything else to finally add to this bad boy over here? What you thinking?
I mean, yeah, it's made sense for a long time. We've known, for a long time that, the 2018 Justice League Dark run, that Dan was supposed to continue with the story and tie in the Great Darkness to Lucifer and Upside Down Man, but that didn't come to fruition fully because he got changed.
Yeah.
But it was also interesting to see everything come full circle, and even the characters that whoever this being is, let's just say it's Lucifer. it's also interesting, like, who he chooses to, like, go as. Because, well, first he goes as, like, Upside Down Man, which, like, we know was, like, there was going to be, like, a connection between, like, in the original 2018, like, Justice League Dark story. And then he goes to, like, Trigon, arguably the most popular, like, Hell Lord, like, in DC.
Yeah.
So, like, it's nice, like, it's a bit of a coincidence, I'd say, like, arguing that, like, he goes, like, to these characters specifically.
Yeah.
And then back to himself.
And even the guy literally saying, yo, this guy worked on Lucifer, so we chose him. Like, I knew who was going to do this shit. And honestly, this is a landmark, because all of the people who are, like, really big Vertigo down players and, like, Lucifer down players, or even if this turns out to be First of the Fallen, anybody essentially who's in Vertigo is going to be amped by this. I mean, worst case scenario, it's the Great Darkness, and the Great Darkness is acknowledging that this character is out there, and he is seen as just as significant, if not more significant, than any of the other characters here. So if this really is Lucifer, like it's very heavily being implied, this is huge. There's no more, oh lol, Lucifer's not even that powerful. He can't even traverse the void, like the true void, the overvoid. He can't even leave like everything within the context of creation. No, he's like literally chilling out here, just in the Great Darkness apparently. Which is wild, because most heroes and stuff just can't even comprehend being out here without absolutely losing their mind and trying to kill one another. This is absolutely crazy stuff for DC, and I really hope that we get more in this area of DC, because this is some of the most wild stuff that we've really seen. Vertigo characters for the first time showing up inside a crisis event and actually playing a pivotal role within it. It's wild. But I tell you what, boys, I want to hear what you guys think down low. I want to hear your theories, and I want to hear who you think that this being was. I'm pegging Lucifer pretty safely, but who knows, man? They've got 3 solid options here, or at least the 3 solid ones that I could possibly piece together. And probably first being Lucifer, second being the First of the Fallen, and third being the Great Darkness. Actually, I'd probably switch around, the second one being Great Darkness, the third being First of the Fallen. But be sure to like and subscribe. It's been a blast of a conversation. I really appreciate Wally coming on here and jamming with me, because a lot of the times whenever I talk about this stuff, I'm talking with this guy, I'm talking with Q, I'm talking about everyone on the server about what we think, but it's always good to hear his perspective, because he reads a lot of Vertigo content and he really knows his stuff in that department. Do you have anything you want to hit up before you head out?
I mean, like, pretty much said everything. I mean, like, yeah, like, I don't know, it's interesting to see, like Lucifer of all characters, like, be introduced to a crisis event, because, like,
Facts.
If you're on the server, you know, like, I called this a while back. And, like, it was fucking wild, bro.
Well, honestly,
but, like,
it's about time we had Lucifer show up for a crisis. If these events really are that significant, these motherfuckers should be here by now. Like, but yeah, go ahead.
But, like, it's also, like, yeah, just to, like, relax the, you know, like, Pralaya cards and all that.
Big
like,
facts.
all of these, like, yo, y'all notice how, like, ever since, like, Lucifer's been here, bro, like, Pralaya's been real quiet, bro, I'm not gonna lie. And, like, yeah, like, no more, like, Lucifer's only 5D, no more, like, Goku solo bullshit, like, bro. And plus, it also makes sense that, like, he's in the Great Darkness like, because, like, this would also prove that, like, he wasn't affected by any of the other crisis events, meaning, so, like, you can't just say, oh, like, Dr. and Henry, like, one-shot creation, so, like, Lucifer's in creation.
Instant creation,
like,
yeah.
no.
That, and
like,
it makes so much sense due to his narrative, because he's moving outside of the plan of the
exactly.
presence, who's everyone inside creation. It works so well if this really is him.
Because, like, he tried to go to the Great Darkness, like, the first time, but then, like, he got rolled up on by his brother.
Yeah.
So then, like, he had to go back in verse to, like, sort that shit out. But, like, yeah. Like, he wanted, like, it's also, like, really convenient because, like, Lucifer also, like, created a realm in, like, hell that's, like, reminiscent to, like, the Great Darkness. Like, it's fucking wild.
Yeah, just this whole situation was unbelievable, bro. Like, I really hope they follow up on this.
Yeah. But if it's Curse of the Fallen, I mean, I'll take that W too. Like, he was, like, very, like, if you read a lot of Lucifer, you can, like, see, like, a few times he references that he himself is First of the Fallen. So, like, yeah, Avatar of Lucifer versus the Great Darkness, W in my book.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's big W's for Vertigo, or like either way, in all
True.
honesty. Like, it's really cool to see the fusing of these things. But that being said, guys, it was a blast making this video. I really look forward to what you guys are hearing down low. I better see all the comments, likes, and subscribes. And I appreciate all of you guys and the Theromax Corps for having such a great discussion on this. And I look forward to seeing exactly what Dark Crisis has for us as time goes on. And I swear to God, they better not just leave out and forget about this instance or never view, like, come back to this shit. I will literally get cancer, bro, I swear. But
I will mold.
It was a blast having Wally on, and I guess with no further ado, guys, later, Lanterns.